to come out. The NSS talked a little bit about Freddy and how we're not expecting him to play flex picks. We've seen that already one banned out now with SK taking Fizz away from the table. And very interesting, we have not seen a Rek'Sai ban in a very long time.
We have not, but we have not seen these teams either.
True, but
in a particularly long time.
I mean, Rek'Sai hasn't been one of the absolute must-pick, must-ban junglers. Sure, she's top tier, don't get me wrong, but there hasn't been a lot of focus for jungle in just, you know, the last few months while we've been on 5.14.
Yeah, what we did hear, though, also from Analyst Desk, and remembering SK, when Sven went back to the Rek'Sai and Gragas at the end of the split, those were his best performances, maybe outside of the odd Lee Sin game. So maybe Kickers and Gamers too afraid of it. We do see Gangplank taken off the table. Fiora, Riven are still up. Braum is taken away, which is something we've seen from at least the European LCS qualifiers and NA. And another jungle pool hit with that Elise.
At this point, you'd be looking at trying to get G2 to either ban the Azir or something like a Victor here and first pick the other. G2 are in such a rough spot. The other option they could go to is if they even remotely feel like SK are playing the Fiora, that might be one that would be banned. But continuing the jungle theme once again as Lee Sin gets banned out. This is the picks and bans phase, specifically bans that just has not been the case for very long because there are so many strong junglers that you can't ban out enough. As you said, though, Sven Skaren is a very... this picks and bans phase is completely different to what we were expecting from 5.14. You know, Sven Skaren has been heavily targeted. We're expecting now, I would assume, like a Gragas or a Nidalee to come out from him. Yeah,
we'll have to see what Sven decides to first pick. But for SK, sticking with old trends, despite the fact that it was primarily N-rated playing the Lulu in the summer split, the substitution for Noxiac, there is still a high priority on that champion. Maybe SK are playing around that playstyle still.
To put that in perspective, 6 times SK Gaming played Lulu, and all 6 times it went to N-rated. There was never a Fox or a Freddy Lulu game. So, I mean, clearly a bit of a change-up unless they've got Noxiac and they're just saying, yeah, you can just play Lulu again. Wow. It's fine.
We'll find out what they decide. What we do see, as you've mentioned already, Stress, the Azir was left open. Gragas is still up. Kalista, a high priority here. That is going to get secured. Remember, 515 Sivir did take a hit to her ultimate. So let's see if Candy Panda still wants to play that, considering Candy played quite a lot of those wave clear ADCs, the Corkis, the Sivers, etc.
So for that Azir, talking of Perks in the mid lane, a very young player, but a lot of experience. Perks has been playing for a very long time, despite being, I think he's actually only 16 still, will be 17 very shortly. But you know, he's just such a flashy player. He plays a lot of Azir, plays Jace, and is a big young talent to look to for the mid lane role. So I'm surprised that he's been allowed the Azir. But then again, it is game 1 of a best of 5. Maybe test the waters, see what Fox has got for him, and see what SK can do to handle it.
And from a stylistic point of view, Gamers 2 throughout the summer series also relied quite heavily on their solo lane as a Perks and Smitty J. So it's nice to see Jesse playing that Kalista. It'll only be the 2nd time that we've seen it in summer, and he will be going up against a scaling ADC in Candy Panda's Tristana.
So we're kind of expecting, speaking of the solo laners, Smitty J to look perhaps towards the Fiora. It's his style of champion. I just wonder, going up against a player like Freddy, who he loves his tanks, and a lot of what we've seen into Fiora recently in LPL, in LCK, is champions like Malphite, who, okay, maybe they don't, you know, out-damage Fiora in any sense of the word, but they can just stand there, kite around Fiora, and prevent her from diving into your backline. But speaking of diving, there's one champion we haven't seen in quite some time outside of North America, and that is Kha'Zix. He likes to get in the backline.
Well, he likes to try, anyway. Kick is subscribing to the high school of regional qualifier jungling. Gonna get his hands onto the beast.
The problem is, you've got a Tristana and a Lulu and a Gragas on the other side of the matchup now, already. This is a tough matchup to get into the backline as it is. If you get there onto Tristana, Lulu Ultimate's going to come out. The option of Shen is still available for SKT. Maokai is still up as well. All champions that Freddy has played, and that has become a very difficult Tristana to kill for a champion like Kha'Zix.
It will be, and SK have got a fairly thematic team comp. Lean back, hope Candy Panda can carry, and then give him all the shields and defense from every other lane. That'll be a mid lane Lulu for SK Gaming. Whereas Gamers 2, they've kind of got good poke with the Zia and Kha'Zix. They kind of want to go all in with Thresh and Kha'Zix a little bit, but it's a mix and match team composition. There's not a lot of innate synergy between all the champions. Maybe they do pick comps exceptionally well. That would be the strength of it. Not a lot of reliable hard engage. Not a Gragas, not a Alistair, with the Lulu speeding them up either.
For sure. Now we have to look now. Do they opt towards something like the Fiora, something that they can put SmittyJ off in a solo lane and say, you know, okay, so we don't have reliable hard engage, let's just not really engage. Let's just go split push style and try and get something the other side of the map. But there is the round out of the engage. It's going to be 2 tanks in the top lane, a little bit different from what perhaps we were expecting in Game 1 of the series, but Gamers 2 showing that they want to play it patiently now with a Maokai in the top lane. I'm looking towards this jungle matchup. If Kikis looks to just go for the 1 versus 1 against Svenskeren, that's one thing that Sven's been very good at in the tail end of the season, is finding the enemy jungler 1v1 and actually taking the better trades. I wonder whether that's what Kikis wants to try and match him at his own game with.
Kikis will have a lot more pressure as he is on stage once again. Since leaving the Unicorns of Love, you can actually see the stock standard scarf around Kikis' neck. And we'll see whether or not Ocelot picks up one signature man. But a bit more seriously though, for Kikis in particular, he looked great when he joined Gamers 2 at the end of the regular season of the Challenger Series. And then during playoffs, in my opinion, somewhat underperformed. Didn't quite wear his carry pants as much as he did during the last regular games. I
think that's very fair to say. And especially, you know, Gamers 2 came in kind of shocked the challenger scene by, you know, they slowly accrued wins, but beat Team Dignitas EU twice in the end of the regular split. So, you know, Gamers 2 have shown that they can stand up to tough competition, but now is the true test.
Yeah, it will be indeed. If you guys on home would like to let us know who you think will win, jump on Twitter, tweet at LOL Esports with hashtag SKWin if you feel they will re-qualify for 2016, or if you think Gamers 2 will jump the hurdle for the first time in 4 attempts, hashtag G2win. It is a best of 5 for a spot in the LCS next year. And team compositions that are a little surprising. Something that we saw from SK towards the end of their split was the, as the LSS DM did, Spring Split Light version, 3 pushing lanes. Not necessarily hard pushing, but Lulu's going to do okay. Tristan's going to do okay. And eventually, Freddy will get some ability to shove lanes down. As you can see, SK going for an early invade.
Eventually. As a reminder, 5.15, this is not the Juggernaut patch, so different itemization. I wouldn't expect too much out of Freddy. We've seen Shen's elsewhere around the world building all kinds of crazy stuff, but in this game, on the other side of the rift for Gamers 2, it's an interesting one because so much of their game plan was always put a lot on SmittyJ's shoulders, but now they've turned to Kikis for more of a carry style. So it's something that worked for them in the games against Team Dignitas. He was playing the likes of a Rengar, got himself ahead. Now on Kha'Zix, it's a champion that outside of high, as we said, just haven't seen all that much because, you know, he kind of needs to snowball fairly heavily in order to get himself into the game. You need to get in the backline and annihilate somebody before you get completely pushed out.
And we heard Kikis saying in the intro video as well that with this team is a lot of talented players. He can lead them to victory. Guess you're only going to lead from the front with a champion like Kha'Zix that wants to jump in there. Hope that you're going to have Perks and Jesse following up as well. So with the deep vision that SK accrued, looks like they are setting themselves up for a lane swap. You can see both Candy Panda and Noxia near the top half of the map, whereas Jesse and Hybrid, they have in fact started on the Gromp in the bottom half. So a lane swap scenario initiated by SK, which is something that should give them a small advantage considering the number of lane swaps they would have seen and experienced throughout an entire LCS split.
Yeah, certainly when we saw Gamers 2 in lane swap scenarios, they couldn't always keep up. One thing we did see with Challenger is in the beginning of the games, teams were a lot less consistent with set plays at the beginning when it comes to level 1s, when it comes to lane swaps, and the tower dives that followed. So, I mean, experience, you'd expect it to go likely in SK's way. I do wonder, though, because obviously the Tristana and Kalista matchup was changed a good few patches back when Kalista received a few nerfs with regards to her AD ratio on basic attacks. So, I mean, Candy Panda not wanting to face off against Jesse is a bit of an interesting one because this is one lane that I actually feel like SK could be pressuring. Candy Panda, I feel like, should get the advantage on Jesse because Jesse is an AD carry that loves to go even in lane. And I just feel like SK could have played the lane out and ended up with the better trades.
So they opted to go for the tower instead. In what has become the somewhat standard sort of 3v0 towers. You can see both respective junglers. It's on their half of the map, but Sven's getting a little bit greedy. Technically on the side that is weaker. So we saw that small roam from Noxiac. So towers should trade shortly within the same time frame as one another.
Yeah, ever so slightly was in the lead for SK, but their minion line has run out. And this is what I'm talking about. Smitty J is the one to recall here, and doesn't get the experience from the lane after the tower's about to die. Whereas, look, Freddy's the one absorbing the wave. This is what we've seen all of the top teams do, is give the experience to the top laner. You know, the likelihood of needing your bottom lane for Dragon in the next couple of minutes is actually fairly low, so Smitty J can stay down here, absorb the wave, and kind of look to reposition. Consider he has teleport as well, so you can prevent a play the other side of the map. Very strange that they would then end up looking for the 1v1, because now Maokai could be gankable, but it's mid lane.
Noxiac, he's flashed forward. Sven's come in with perks as well. We did see Kickers finding Noxiac just before that engage, but everybody gets away with their lives.
Close call, but as you said, Flash was burned in that middle lane. Running Cleanse as well is perks. On the other side, Fox running Ignite for himself on Lulu. So looking for that kill pressure just constantly again and again. But honestly, Fox's role in this team is not to solo kill perks or even get you know, multiple kills on perks in lane. His role later into the game is just protect Candy Panda. That's what everybody's role here is. Freddy the same. Just put everything on Candy Panda's back and assume that he's going to be able to carry, which has been a good strategy in the past. Yeah, and Candy's somewhat impressed. This is an early teleport, so let's look for the tower dive. Candy Panda, flash and heal. There's no tower to fall back to. Freddy's going to follow up with the teleport as well. Jesse is stacking up those Rens. That's a flash forward from Hybrid. He gets the flare. Noxiac will be giving up first blood to Gamers 2 Jesse. Good first blood resulting from the actual swap that happened. The fact that the bottom lane stayed bottom for Gamers 2 means they could actually punish SK for pushing up too far without their turret. SK were just caught sleeping there. Did not respect the teleport being available, didn't respect the wards out behind them, and you know, that's just a fairly standard play for Gamers 2 to actually pull off once they'd got the lane situation that they wanted.
And of course for Gamers 2, getting ahead is integral to this team composition. If they ever fall behind, the damage to tankiness ratio, when you look at SK, who's got a Shen that's tanky, Gragas tanky, Alistair tanky, and the shields, then Gamers 2 are in trouble. So good first blood, also on the man that needs to be dishing out the damage. Jez's. And this is a role that we don't actually see from Jesse all that often, because throughout summer, Gamers 2 have relied heavily on their solo laners. The duo lane, I mean, to be honest, we weren't expecting to have a very large impact. So let's see if they can use this advantage.
And I think it sounds weird in the sense that Jesse has had games where he's just put up very good numbers, which, you know, is an unavoidable fact because Jesse's had good games, but at the same time, he just goes even in every single situation. But Sven, again, going aggressive onto kick, as you can see, this Kha'Zix's taking a lot of damage in the trades, and it's because there's so many members of SK around that you're never going to get an isolated target right now.
Yeah, really difficult to, and all that vision was being played with there. We could see Gamers 2 spotting out some wards, but not all of them. And for SK, a couple of deep vision, a couple of wards for relatively deep in the bottom half of that map. We'll give some information when this next blue buff will be available for challenge. And we are going to see the lanes now standardized. Candy and Noxiac, despite giving up a kill down bottom, clearing out their Krugs, and Freddy doing what Freddy does best, soaking up solo lane, trying to split push. Freddy really does like to make those sorts of plays, and I want to see whether or not the shot calling has improved, because Analyst S mentioned it, 5 games out of the 12 losses SK had, they were ahead at 20 minutes. And then either a bad objective play or a bad team fight call is what cost those guys. So we'll have to find out if they've resolved those problems in the few weeks off.
Well, we'll see when they resolve this problem, as we are in a pause. So one thing I kind of wanted to look at briefly as we head into this pause is itemization by Jesse. Strangely, he goes back, buys a Vamp Scepter after the first blood, then sells it and buys 2 daggers. So not actually offering him many combat stats outside of just a slightly increased Ren damage because he'll have maybe a stack or two more.
And in theory, in the early game, a couple extra hops maybe. So
yeah, sure.
Some possibilities to skip around a fight at the cost of damage.
Right now, he's not actually looking to trade that much. That's kind of Jesse's way. Is like, okay, you do you, I'll do me, and I'll just farm up and have an ever so slight lead.
Well, we do have a very brief break. I would like to remind everybody that the Worlds qualifiers are actually going on over in Korea and China. So it's IG versus QG. They were in their third game, and KT versus Jin Air. I will actually be giving some updates once production lets me know the games are resolving, because those are 2 of the last 3 seeds that will be determined. International wildcard qualifier will run later this evening once everything wraps up, and that's it. We'll know all 16 teams for Worlds.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Can't wait. I've loved watching the regional qualifiers the last couple of days. Seen some interesting meta stuff, especially on the 5.15, 5.16 patches, as we're on 5.15 here. Haven't seen it translate too much yet into this series. We're only in game 1.
Yeah, we are in game 1 of a best of 5 with another to follow. And of course here, regionally, locally, it's spots in the 2016 season that are up for grabs. So a lot to play for this weekend in competitive league. We did get that problem resolved. It looked like it was Jesse. He was able to get that sorted quickly. Smitty Jace jumped in on Freddy. That's a defensive flash already. So successful gank from Kikis. And that's something we didn't touch on. The 2 tanks of Gragas Shen versus the tank damage dealer of Maokai Kha'Zix could go in favor of the Kha'Zix if he can get some of that isolation taste of fear procs.
Yeah, possibly in the early game. I mean, I'm kind of looking at it. It actually, for SK, the Azir is going to cause a big problem in the sense that, so now you have to kind of itemize for both Magic versus Nami. You can't just pick one because they got a Kha'Zix, which is a little bit unfortunate for SK. Depending on how far ahead G2 or SK can get, will kind of result in tankiness. But those daggers for Jesse have been resolved into the recurve bow and into the Bilgewater Cutlass, so it was just a matter of time. He just wasn't really expecting too much more of a fight, didn't get it, so safely gets himself up towards that Blade of the Ruin King.
Yeah, nice and comfortable. And of course, with that kill that Jesse accrued, got some CS advantages in the AD carry and top lane. It's a 1,000 gold lead for Gamers 2. Towers are currently even, and I'm actually glad you talk about the itemization, because for G2, it's just buy armor. I mean, yes, Lulu's going to have some AP damage and, you know, will do okay later. But this is very much about keep Tristana alive. And if there's enough armor accrued on Smitty J, and what I imagine eventually Kick is, it's going to be quite difficult for Candy to burn through that front line. That was an optimistic death sentence from Hybrid.
Yeah, optimistic at best at that point, but Freddy's seen that play a couple of times. I think he was expecting that one. But the dual lane up in the top side does give the freedom for Sven to enter the bottom side jungle now. Talking of strong and weaker sides at this point. Yes, Kikis is in the jungle, but there's already a good few wards to spot him on the way, and that gives SK the freedom to, you know, throw down that bomb onto the tower, get it chunking, get it ticking, and take that tower down for themselves. I wonder if they'll rotate out to Dragon right after. Sven's taking the Scuttle Crab by the looks of it, just finished, while G2 do still have 2 people on the top side.
So trading tower for tower, and of course most likely giving up this Dragon.
Yeah.
SK going to be sitting pretty, playing towards Aspect. Another thing that SK did fairly frequently in the summer split, looking towards those 5 Dragons, team fight to win, team compositions. Something that could certainly help out their lack of damage. And this will be completely uncontested here. Gamers 2, they are pushing relatively aggressively on the top lane. Got some good deep wards, so they may look for a dive or just get some tower damage on that top lane inner turret.
It's interesting that G2 would give over the Dragon this early on. It's actually one problem they had throughout Challenger, just in general, was G2 were one of the playoff teams that actually took Dragon the least. Compared to the likes of Team Dignitas or Maus, who, as we all saw in the finals, everything was about that Dragon buff. For G2, they kind of never really bothered about that. It was more about getting solo laners snowballing, opening fights up, and taking Dragon after it if it's available. So, you know, it's clearly not a priority for them once again. We'll see how that actually affects this series against SK, because SK want this game to go fairly good. I mean, sure, there's an Azir on the other side of it, but if you've got a Tristana with basically 4 utility champions around it, there's not too much better a position you could be in.
There isn't, but there's also such high risk involved. If Candy Panda is out of position or gets caught by Kha'Zix or Thresh, then all of a sudden, all of your damage is done. There's nothing left to fall back on. And there's a reason these sort of single threat team compositions have fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
We talked so heavily in summer about triple threat comps from a player perspective and from a team composition perspective.
I will challenge that slightly though, because we did see Fnatic run a similar style in the European finals. We actually saw Jin Air run a very similar composition today with a Kog'Maw rather than a Tristana. So while they are out of favor generally, they still can work.
They can work if they can get the damage down. Sven eats a death sentence from Hybrid and Kikis leaps forward. Nothing comes from that one, a defensive body slam out. So let's see how much wave clear does SK have to play with. That's something we've not expanded on a whole lot. Lulu, the primary wave flick. Little Answer's already thrown out. Unbreakable Will. That's a 4-man pulverize. Noxiac has found Kikis. The Emperor's Divide will try slow it down, but it won't be enough. The cask knocks Kikis back under the tower. Here comes Candy Panda. SK got their first kill of the series. And it was a well-executed engage from Noxiac.
Great engage from Noxiac, but the biggest question about this is Jesse top lane. Why would G2 look for a play like that? Sure, it was a hook and they were looking to engage from it, but you have to respect the Alistar ability to just flash pulverize in that situation. If you hook Noxiac and bring him ever so slightly closer to 4 of you, he's going to do that every single time.
Poor calling from Gamers 2. Not having their AD carry with them, SK punished. Not only get a kill, but they also take a lead in the tower game, 3-2. Will also even out that gold deficit. So misplay there from Gamers 2. And that was a good play from Noxiac's Alistar, the substitute player that's been brought in to replace N-Rated in the promotion tournament.
Which, again, as a substitute player, I mean, normally we talk about, you know, nervousness, but Noxiac, he's been on this stage enough, can land an absolutely beautiful pulverize onto 4 people. G2 stacking ever so, I don't even want to say slightly too much. That was just stacking far too much at this point. Like, if that engage happens maybe 15 minutes down the line, that's very likely an easy 4-0 for SK.
Get them resets. Tristana pentakills aplenty. That's what Stockholm taught me. Or at least potential pentakills. And of course for Noxiac, you know, when he was on the stage in spring with MYM, he gave the team quite a lot of direction. Especially when on champions like Alistar. Pretty good roaming, pretty good shot calling, and provided another level of threat, another level of engage for MYM. That's beneficial for SK when you consider Sven as the primary engage tool. Freddy normally follows up or teleports in. And of course, Noxiac now can add another layer to that dynamic.
So we're about 15 minutes in, and SK already starting to itemize towards armor. You can see Sunfire Cape has been finished on Shen, expecting Gragas to look towards a little bit of armor in the next couple of minutes. It's kind of problematic for Kikis in that he's picked a jungler that requires some sense of damage. Remember, Kha'Zix, when he was played a very, very, very long time ago, back Season 3, Season 4, could build a mix between tank and damage because he had damage reduction on his ultimate. That was taken off a very long time ago and no longer exists. So it's a champion that does rely a lot more on just his damage output and the ability to get onto a carry. And as we've alluded to quite a few times, the Lulu, the Alistar, everything is going to be there to protect the Tristana. It's all on Candy Panda's positioning. So now Gamers 2 have to switch their focus onto Perks. Make sure Perks can get enough of a lead through this mid-game to ensure he has the damage to deal with the front line too.
We'll find out if they can find that gear. That's Gamers 2, of course, but for Kikis, small advantage in CS. And when we did see High play Kha'Zix in the North American Regional Qualifier, he went full damage. Hex Drinker into Hydra, was building towards Last Whisper. We can see a Phage picked up. I'm expecting that to become a Black Cleaver. Will be the most likely options. But for Kikis, it's not a big enough lead, as Sunfire Cape's already finished. We're expecting armor from Sven. That poke from those Void Spikes might not be more than just a tickle, unless he can accelerate quite quickly.
One thing I do like, though, from Gamers 2, very early priority onto the home guard on the Mount Guard. Get those flank engages, catch out Candy Panda, catch out Fox when they're unawares. Make sure you can get the engage and get the fight started. So that is a good adaptation from Gamers 2, something we actually see even top laners in the LCS miss out quite a long time into the game.
We've discussed the early home guards
we
in
have.
every region, and luckily Gamers 2, they've got the support from home as well. You guys voting on Twitter. Let's find out if Gamers 2 can even out the Dragons. Sven Skeren is hovering around. Gamers 2 going to peel away defensively. Teleports up for both Freddy and Smitty, as well as the Stand United. And we can see Perks keeping Fox busy in the middle lane. Dragon goes smite it away. Sven Skeren steps up, says, I don't care about Rend. I don't care about Smite. I'll have number 2.
How does that happen? I mean, you have a Kalista. Okay, Kalista didn't have the biggest number of stacks. Early Smite out from Kikis when it came to actually, you know, putting it in time with the Kalista. Maybe it was an early Rend by the looks of it too, but Sven's not going to get many easier Dragon Steals than that. Just miscommunication out from Gamers 2. Easy Smite down from Sven Skeren, and that's the second Dragon of the game going over to SK.
And despite the fact Kikis has played on the stage, and so has Jesse, in fact, the pressure is there. You're now playing for a shot in the LCS, in the big boy leagues. First little miscommunication. Actually, let's be fair, that's the second mistake from Gamers 2 when you consider that mid-tower pressure from earlier on. So it could just be first game jitters.
Yeah, it could be. I feel like, though, they recognize that they can't let SK sit and farm just because of how well this Tristana composition is going to scale later on, and without Perks getting ahead, it's very difficult. This is almost an unusual situation for G2, that at nearly 20 minutes, Perks is 0-0-0. Fox has done a good job of neutralizing Perks' normal lane advantages.
We'll find out whether or not Fox can accelerate ahead. Still, even on CS, Deathcap after Athene's going to get some really big shields is the plan. And, you know, limited wave clear from SK, limited wave clear from G2, relying on those Void Spikes and the Azir soldiers, which of course are, you know, very effective as long as Perks is in the right lane. But both of these teams may have some difficulty when it comes to knocking down towers unless they have an advantage or a map play.
So Void Spike's likely not to be upgraded until level 16 right now for Kikis. He's opted for the Q for now for his first evolution. Likely going to get the E for that reset as the second upgrade. That's normally what Kha'Zix used to do. But again, we haven't seen him outside of high.
No. Interference elite. We'll find out. We'll keep track on the skill order as this extended laning phase just continues, and both teams happy to farm it out. Quick update I have heard from production. The results of the Chinese regional qualifier game number 3. If you don't like spoilers, mute now. IG were victorious, 3-0. So we have another World Championship team secured. Sven and Kikis find each other, but nothing further breaks out. And we do see Kikis going towards that Black Leader itemization.
How do we tell people to unmute?
That's a great point. And maybe
I never understood that with like Match of the Day scores on BBC. They'd always be like, mute now. It's in a way. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, hopefully people will see that SK and G2 are in position in the middle tower, and they'll think to bring the volume back up, because actually G2 just back away themselves.
They did, not making the same mistake.
Yeah.
They didn't have Jesse with them. He was running up to the river. And they were respecting the threat of engage from SK.
Look at how much map control on the top side SK have as well. G2 kind of only own a quarter of the map right now. There's good wards kind of midway through the top side jungle. Freddy's pushed up, trying to stop Smitty from ever being able to get himself into the fight. And while there are a couple of decent wards on the bottom side, there's no real way for Gamers 2 to actually make a teleport play right now, unless SK are kind of hanging around that red buff Wraith area on their own side of the map.
What I do like from SK, they are grouping up effectively, using the vision in the top half that you just talked about, and safety in numbers in the bottom half. But the problem is the wave's not working with them. The wave is all the way down in the bottom of the lane. So for SK, despite the ability to get to the inner turret bottom, they had no minions to work with either. So a little bit of poor pre-planning for that invasion.
Well, it's kind of because Jesse, while he hasn't been with the team, he's just kind of sorting out waves, pushing them, making sure that at no point is SK trying to push 3 waves like we saw them do all the way through LCS. It also has led to a CS increase for Jesse, a lead when it comes to being above Candy Panda. Still does have that kill from very early on, but this has been a very passive game so far. Both teams just kind of feeling each other out this early on. That mid tower will soon fall, but likely not this wave. As will be cleared out by SK, but with Candy Panda down in the bottom lane now recalling, G2 will at least have the opportunity to get vision control over the entrance to the Dragon Pit, but don't seem to be opting for it. Look, there's very little jungle and support synergy here. They're the opposite sides of the river.
Working together on the same objectives. A minute until Dragon. This reminds me very, very heavily of Dignitas EU versus Mouse, the Challenger Series Summer Split Finals. Dignitas ended up winning and replacing the Copenhagen Wolves in the LCS, but that entire series was determined by Dragons. Saw more Dragons culled in that series than I've seen in most splits of the LCS. And with 45 seconds up, look, Scuttle Crab secured for G2. They don't have deep vision necessarily of SK's jungle, but that Crab will give them some control around the pit if they want to challenge for another Dragon. And the previous one was stolen by Sven. Yeah,
at this point though, G2 actually have a... Oh wow, Sven in from the side!
He's found Jesse and Candy's killed him! Gamers 2 once again caught with their pants down. We do see Perks throwing out those sand soldiers as the teleport from Smitty J was started and cancelled. He would have been behind enemy lines. And Freddy with the team thanks to Stand United.
SK have been using this low tower to just bait Gamers 2 into the same play twice now. I mean, I didn't even see Sven coming in from the side at that point, neither did Gamers 2, because Jesse randomly stepped forward from the flash gank from Sven.
Yeah, Sven manages to catch his man, gives SK another kill, and gives them priority on positioning when it comes to the Dragon Pit. It does not look like Gamers 2 will be able to respond in time. And if they do, it's going to be half-hearted. Jesse is going to be quite late to this part.
Yes, he absolutely will. Nothing he can do here. Kigis not even opting to challenge for it. They had vision control. Perks, mid lane goes for Noxiac.
Yeah, Perks looking for the tower, and Noxiac, the support, almost able to take him down. Dragon number 3 secured by SK. And SK are very happy by punishing G2's positioning.
And G2 are getting very impatient. You can see it just in their positioning on the map. With the areas they're going to, locations looking for objectives, they just don't want to sit back at any point in this game and look at what is the objective play. Kikis steps forward, they stack again. And again, SK have seen this play coming for a good few seconds here because Shen is already teleporting into the fight with his ultimate. That's Stand United there before Smitty J could even start channeling his teleport, so ends up cancelling for Maokai in the end. So again, another situation in which SK have the numbers advantage in mid lane because G2 are trying to push onto a low health turret. Controlled
and calculated from SK Gaming. And Candy Panda just quietly accruing items despite being down 25 odd CS, got his Shiv and his IH completed with the extra tower and the kills, even on gold with Jesse. And he's got so many more tools to keep him alive as the fight continues to progress. Jesse's gonna at least rend that Bramble back, get the red buff, and Gamers 2, rinse and repeat. Still looking for that mid-outer turret. Although this time, I think wisely going through the jungle to get some vision down before trying to go through the front door.
Yeah, make sure you got those flanks warded. Just don't allow Gragas to kind of just body slam his way over a wall and ult people, but they're looking for it again as he body slams his way over the wall.
They are.
SK really want this.
Aggressive they are. The charge is on Jesse. He's flashed. Death Center's going to connect to Noxiac. Noxiac's going to find Hybrid. Fate's Call will keep him alive. Jesse's hopping forward as he throws Hybrid back into the fight. Once again, Death Sentence connects. That means Sven is going to be singled out, but he's a giant man with a giant barrel. It will not be enough. Now Freddy's in trouble. SK overcommit into the jungle and are punished for the same mistake that Gamers 2 made. 3 quick kills, and Gamers 2, they might be looking for Baron.
So impatient from SK just after we praise them for punishing G2's impatience. This one isn't over yet.
Smitty's gonna follow Candy all the way through the jump. Buster Shot will not be enough, and Fox is left as the last man standing. Gamers 2 now in a 5-on-1. Up once again, peeling to Nash.
I mean, G2 used so much running away from SK Gaming that SK should have just pulled back and known that that was enough. That's all they had to do here. This Baron does have a lot of damage going down onto it. Fox is trying to run spoiler, but I don't think he can take out all 4. He will get Hybrid first, though.
Well, 1 kill for Baron. It's a trade that I'm always willing to make. Gamers 2 now on the defensive. Fox has got Noxiac support, but nothing else. Gamers 2 grab a 4,000 gold lead and Baron buff after punishing SK going aggressive. Here's a replay of that fight.
Man, Candy Panda at this point, look at how much they've got from this. This is one, maybe even the first Fate's Call we've really seen in this game, at least used aggressively, and SK just completely not respecting the Fate's Call. From that, Candy Panda's trying to back himself away, and they just play this game of balancing the fight, trying to just get as much chip damage as they can onto Gamers 2, but again, Smitty J, you've got to respect the Maokai here as well. You can't just go headlong into a bush and try to stop a team taking Baron after they've just killed 3 of your team.
And look at the items that have been secured after that big fight. Rylai's, Righteous Glory, Frozen Heart, a Last Whisper for Jesse. Gamers 2 now with the tools to deal with that front line as well. More kiting power from perks on that Rylai's Crystal Scepter. But let's see if it'll happen again. Kickers, this time, warding up the Raptor camp. Not going to fall prey as Gamers 2 knock over the tower.
They've also got Baron minions, which would have done it just on their own right now. But now the siege is on for Gamers 2. This is the kind of lead that they actually need against this composition, because Tristana right now sat on 2 items, does not have the 3rd one completed, unlike Jesse on the other side. Does have that Last Whisper alongside. Candy Panda is a long way off item number 3. Only sat on 400 gold from the amount he's been sat with the team. Hasn't been able to farm all that much. You can see the farm priority has gone over to Fox on the side of SK. And down in the bottom lane as well, we do have this 1 versus 1. Those Baron minions are going to do a fair amount of work to that time.
Yeah, Smitty J happy just to sit back and let the Baron buff empower his minion wave. Smitty usually playing a carry at this stage, playing the 1-4 style, but will be happy enough on Maokai, trying to pull attention. The rest of Gamers 2 doing the smart thing, keeping the pressure up middle, while Kikis is going to shove the wave up top. So this is a 1-3-1, and there is enough disengage from Thresh and Azir to actually buy time if Gamers 2 get jumped on. So I like this play, and I like the fact Gamers 2 are adapting.
However, one thing we did see, I think it was when Maus played Gamers 2 actually, that Gamers 2 sat mid lane for about 4 minutes trying to push towers down and never really achieved anything. They ended up recalling and going back to mid lane. I think this was in the first round of the playoffs, and G2 have this propensity to kind of go mid and go, okay, it's going to work. And then it doesn't end up working.
We've seen that this series already.
Right, exactly. They need something to work for them here when it comes to the damage they get down. If Candy Panda steps forward like that, that will be enough. But it's the top side that it is working for them. This is the adaptation of the play that is making it successful.
Yeah, Kikis has already secured a tower. Look at the picture-in-picture. Smitty J has got the bottom inner turret down to 20% HP. Gamers 2. They are keeping SK tied up in so many places. The Baron is allowing them to knock over towers.
And not only that, it prevents the SK gaming composition from ever working. Because you need the Tristana with the Lulu, with the Alistar, the Shen in the side lane to teleport in. If you don't have that, there's no way SK can reliably take a fight, because none of the rest of their team has the damage to deal with Gamers 2.
Yeah, that is certainly the case. Nor they have the wave.
Candy Panda
has bitten off way more than he can chew and donates a kill to Candy Panda. Not respecting the vision or the control of the jungle. So another misplay or misposition. Won't give up a kill. Once again, guys, if you are in do not like spoilers, mute for 25 seconds. We'll put a timer on this one. I've adapted. The results have come in from LCK's regional qualifier. And the 3rd seed, once again, mute for spoilers, from Korea is KT Rolster. They took down Jene 3-1, which means there's only 1 team left to qualify, and it will either be Pain or Chaos Latin Gamers on the international wildcard. That will take place from Chile, maybe, I think it is, later this evening. So we'll find that out. And we can get back to LCS, where Gamers 2, Baron buff has worn out, but they got themselves a dragon, they got themselves a tower, and they got themselves, once again, the lead that their team comp needs as we've gone over 31 minutes. Last Whisper picked up for Kikis, so he's all about the poke. All
about that damage. And, you know, as we said, if they manage to split SK up, that's actually going to work out fine for them, because the sum of SK's parts is what they're looking for. However, this time Gamers 2, their Baron buff has expired. They're looking to group mid. This is the problem we were talking about. We've seen this backfire a couple of times. So that is fast damage onto the tower. Perks may be caught here.
No, it's Hybrid and Jesse that are caught. In fact, Sven turns his attention. Candy gets the reset, finds Perk. Emperor's Divide will not be enough. Candy flashes forward before Rocket jumping backwards. And Gamers 2, they've been flanked, they've been found, and they are going to get killed. There's a Lantern available for Smitty. If he can click it. He's gone forward. He's looking for the lantern. He rides it all the way forward. Candy Panda's got the movement speed increase. He's got the Lulu empowered minions. He's looking for Hybrid, looking for the hits. He's going to get the flash out of Hybrid as a taunt from Freddy will get the kill. Killing spree for Candy. A double kill for Candy. He's 5-1-1.
That's an exceptionally tanky Maokai, but it doesn't matter in the end of all things because SK punish Gamers 2 again. The same type of play. 3 for 3 in this game. G2 have grouped middle lane and tried to push a tower, and again SK punished them.
This is going to be catastrophic because the wave clear from G2 is so reliant on Perks putting up soldiers before SK arrive. SK will break open the base, but be unable to secure the inhibitor thanks to the low death timers. And for another time this game, maybe not respecting the engage. I feel like Gamers 2 maybe either mistimed Sven's flash or simply forgot about it, because look at this engage. Sven, another body slam flash, and he finds 2.
Yeah, he just is constantly finding these engages. You know, we talked about it. It's our featured matchup of the game between Sven and Kges, and Sven is having a massive effect on starting these fights. It just snowballs out of control in favor of SK Gaming. SmittyJ stayed along for so long here. He had the Frozen Heart, had a Righteous Glory at this point, and Ninja Tabi for a long time in this game, but it doesn't matter. If all of the damage is dead on his team, there is nothing that G2 can do in these fights to kill Candy Panda. And that was the problem when we looked at it in Champion Select, when it was Tristana, Lulu, and Gragas locked in, and G2 lock in Kha'Zix. You've locked in a jungler that has no utility outside of the ability to dive a backline champion when there's enough protection on the backline to make sure the Tristan is safe. What I will grant, though, is there were a lot of jungle bans. Elise was banned, Lee Sin was banned, Rek'Sai was banned. I still don't feel like Kha'Zix is on the same tier of utility in any stretch of the imagination.
No, certainly not utility. Is bringing damage, but it didn't matter because he didn't get ahead. For Gamers 2 now, Stand United is available. They're trying to get control of vision around Baron. Let's see how this dance plays out. Stand United is available for Freddy.
Teleport already coming in with the home guard, so...
That is the quickest lantern click I think I've ever seen. SmittyJ is a giant tree. He's drunk that elixir of iron. With teleport used and Freddy still split pushing with teleport and Stand United, technically there's more options here for SK. Let's see how they handle the pressure mid lane.
This is the same thing again. I mean, there's no flash on Sven right now, but this is the same thing again. I've seen this one already enough times this series that I don't want to see G2 just group here, because honestly their composition just doesn't need them to group as 5 on this mid tower against all 5 of SK. They're losing a tower for it. Now comes the engage though. When will Freddy TP in?
We're about to find out. Noxiac's gone huge. 1,000 HP from that Lulu Wild Growth. Candy's got the first as Perks has taken out Sven Skiren. Perks has found a second onto Noxiac, and SmittyJ's on the front line. That tree will not go down. That tree will not get shut down. Fox will find one back. It's a messy 5 for 3. But Perks and Jesse, the damage dealers, are alive, and they're shoving down middle.
Look at the better positioning of the fight for Gamers 2. They lock the front line into just a contested battle with Perks, where the soldiers are chunking through them. And SmittyJ was 1 versus 2 for the entirety of that fight in the backline. We saw in the last fight how long it took Candy Panda to actually kill SmittyJ. It took even longer in this fight. I actually don't feel that Candy Panda was doing any damage at all. He had no Last Whisper for that fight, and it meant that he just couldn't get through the bark of Maokai.
Certainly could not, and here's the replay of that, so we'll keep an eye on Candy Panda's positioning, as well as exactly what time Freddy rocks up. But Noxiac just got chunked so early.
He lost half of his health before this fight even started. Stand United actually went on to Noxiac as well, because they were trying to get him into the fight. Look at SmittyJ on the bottom side of your screen, holding both of the damage dealers of SK back, and he still doesn't even die. Right up until the very, very last moment of that fight.
Unfortunate for SK, and of course when you're using your Wild Growth and your Stand United's on front lines or supports, you're in trouble. Dragon was picked up for Gamers 2. Baron's going low. Gamers 2 are close enough to start a fight if they want to, and look at the flanking. There's sentence onto Candy Panda. He's played backwards. Hybrid has found the only damage from SK. With him down, SK do secure Baron, but this could be game. Emperor's Divide locks SK in the pit. Gamers 2 is going to ace SK Gaming and peel for the Nexus. Game 1 of this best of 5 is surely going to Gamers 2.
An incredibly greedy play, looking at the time that it would take for G2 to take the Dragon compared to the Baron. SK just completely give all hope of this game away. They have a composition that all they had to do was just protect Candy Panda, and he gets hooked in, tries to get the Baron, and that's the end of the game for Gamers 2.
Gamers 2 from the Challenger Series have taken the first game in the series off of SK. Exceptional team fight at the end, but both teams not fully respecting their opponent's power and engage potential at different stages in the game, because that swung back and forth.
Oh yeah, that is so fair to say. I mean, as you said, good last two team fights out from Gamers 2. The last one was an easy one, because you got the hook on the Tristana. I feel like this game was just so much messier than we've seen both teams play. I mean, we've seen SK make bad calls like that. Actually, that was the quintessential summer split play from SK.
Yep. Forced Baron.
The more I think about it, they go for a play that they don't need to make and lose the game on it.
Because they weren't that far behind. Leading up to that Baron fight, gold was relatively even. Yes, there were super minions, pouring through the middle lane, but for SK Gaming, they had options available to them. I do think the team comp is a little different. That mid lane is the first time we've seen it on Fox ever. Very, very reliant on Candy Panda, and that can work, especially against some less experienced teams from the Challenger Series if they're not used to dealing with a single threat and finding him. But Jez has played around these team comps, has played around these guys. Kikis has played on teams that have relied on single players to work effectively. So these guys have a lot of experience to deal with it. And for Gamers 2, a good showing in the first game in the series.
It was from maybe a solo play style. I mean, Perks at the end ended up getting pretty huge himself, but it's only game 1. We'll see what game 2 has for us, but we'll also see what our analyst desk has for us. As Shox is joined by apparently her favorite desk